Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Black Mirror Season 3, Episode 4. It's called San Junipero. I get Connor nodding, thinking that I'm going to mess up the title.
You're like you're stumbling.
I'm going to lie, folks. I've been up for a long time. I'll be going graciously to my slumber after this. I will not be passing on, though.
Mm.
Make that clear.
Well, it's a shame.
Do have a bit of a headache, who knows? Maybe it is death. Full spoilers for the episode, as usual. See, like, I can't talk. See, I'm already buckling. I'm buckling under the pressure here.
And this is just an intro.
This is just the intro. So yeah, this. You know what? It's funny. Before we even talk about the actual plot of the episode, I just want to say this. All throughout this episode, I was praying for a happy ending because I needed it after that last one.
I can see sense in Netflix's episode order.
Yeah.
Because it's like this is a perfect palate cleanser.
Oh dear.
Although it makes me scared as to what's coming up.
Oh god, I know. Episode 5 is probably going to be about the Holocaust or something. But yeah, so this is at least obviously again there's a twist, and it's kind of one of these ones where I kind of
You
like
can piece it together.
eventually, but early on it's kind of like I know there's going to be a twist, but I really don't know what it actually is yet. Like I'm just kind of like I'm assuming something here is not what it seems. I don't know quite what yet, but then gradually things came in and you saw.
Yeah.
So we appear to be set in the 1980s.
87, I believe.
What was it? I didn't even pay attention to the exact year, but fair play. Yeah, so we're in the 80s, and the big Lost Boys poster above the movie theatre, and there's, neon everywhere. It's quite. In fact, to be honest, if you want to get me in the mood for the episode,
Start in the 80s like that, yeah.
start with neon, start with synth. They go in the nightclub, it's nothing but 80s songs. And it's the story of this girl named Yorkie who seems very awkward and out of place. She's kind of seems like she's never really done this kind of thing before, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, for the first 10 minutes, or I don't know, I wasn't timing it, I was toying with the idea that Yorkie might be a robot. Now look,
Is this for that first like whole section, that first
yeah,
one? That was,
yeah,
I think that was about just over 10 minutes, that
yeah,
section.
yeah, because the way she'd never done anything before, she'd never been on a dance floor, she'd never had a drink, all of it felt very like this is her first time out in the world. Like she's been in a lab her whole life. Like that's where my head was going.
Reasonable assumption.
And of course, it's explained with much other things later, but that was where my head was. And it's about her. It's actually a very sweet love story about her and Kelly. Kelly's this other girl that she runs into, who's more as you would expect from a sort of 80s girl out in the town. She's sort of fun and vibrant, and tries to get her to dance, and they seem to have a connection. And flat out just offers, like, do you want to go and have sex at one point?
Yeah. And do you know what? This was my first like red flag that threw up something was off for me.
Right, okay.
So they're outside and she says that, and it's just before that where Yorkie says, "Oh, they were all staring at us," and she goes, "That's fine. People are much more accepting now." And I'm like, "Hang on, this is the 80s. People are definitely not accepting of gay stuff in the 80s."
Well,
That was like a big thing for me. I was like, "Hang on, no way."
well, you say that, but presumably, surely in the 80s they were more accepting of it than they were, say, the 60s.
Well,
I mean, you've got to look at it from if they were actually in the 80s, right?
yeah.
You've got Frankie Goes to Hollywood and all
Yeah,
sorts
but
of things.
you also have your AIDS endemic in the 80s.
True. Like
So it's
I'm not,
definitely massively frowned upon.
I'm not saying it was a happy time for the gay community. I'm just saying that compared to say the 60s when they had to hide it because they would be prosecuted for it.
Sure, it's better in that respect. But I don't know, it stood out. It was like it really threw me out that line when it got to it.
Okay. Like I say, I'm very tired, so maybe I was missing hints at this point. But that said, even the whole time there was something kind of like it felt kind of dreamlike almost the
Yeah.
overall tone. So there was kind of like a gist of something else is afoot here. So it comes up saying 1 week later. Also, the other thing is the guy that's with Kelly at first. He keeps mentioning they've got 2 hours left, and then the next time they meet, the next time Kelly, because Yorkie goes back to the same club and they run into each other again. And there's a fun bit where she's kind of like making her jealous because she's talking to this guy, and but it's a very sweet story. It's a very sweet sort of tender love story actually.
But yeah. You're right. There are these hints at the start, like the 2 hours. He refers to them as all the residents are dead.
And then again at the end of the second week, after they've had sex, which we shouldn't brush over because it's a lot of character stuff in there where Yorkie's like, this is the first time I've done this, not just with a woman, just in general, and they start talking, and this is where Kelly gives a lot of her backstory. She says how she was married for a long time. And that was kind of a hint because it was like, you don't look that old. It's kind of...
Yeah, it was like, okay.
But, she says that, and she says, yeah, while I was married, I always knew I was into girls as well. Like, I had crushes, there was people who were attracted. But, I was dedicated to my husband, and then he left. And you take that to mean that he, they split up and he abandoned her. He just ran off with someone or whatever.
That's how it's implied, yeah.
Yeah. And that's how it sounds. And... this is all important. This is all stuff, and again, all running through my head. And I'm like, "What's the twist here?" There's a twist to this.
That's the thing. You go, "This is Black Mirror. This is not as simple as it seems."
Yeah, there's more to this. And then she looks over at the clock, and it's 11:59. She's like, "Oh, we've only got a minute left." And I'm like, "A minute left? What's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on?" And they mentioned they're in, San Junipero, and I'm like, "Well, what is this place? Where is this place?" And it's actually around this point where I'm thinking Matrix, right? Which isn't far away from what it actually is, but I'm thinking not real, and obviously it's not long after that.
It's the next one where it cuts ahead a week again, and she can't find her in the.
She can't find her, and the bartender was it the bartender?
Says go to the Quagmire.
Oh no, I was getting past that. I was going past the Quagmire. Yeah, she goes out to this other extreme club where everyone's like dressed like fetish clothes, and she feels really uncomfortable and all that. No, I was talking about no, it's the ex. That's right, it's the ex at the Quagmire who, the guy she had the one night thing with who wouldn't leave her alone. He says, "Oh, so you might find her in the 90s or the 2000s," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, I did. And then it cuts forward a week, and then
it's
1996.
No, it was 1980 first because there was the commercial on TV for the car,
right?
And it was 1980, and then it went to 1996, and there was a big screen poster, and then it went to 2002. It was
Bourne poster.
Yeah, Bourne poster, and the video games were changing for each era. And again, another hint at the start as well is the guy who was trying to chat her up at the video game arcade section. He was like, "Oh, this is one of the classics." I'm like, "For you, it's not."
Yeah,
it's kind of.
It was like this was the first game that did different endings, and it's like, have there been that many already? Like, is this a thing?
Yeah, and I think, and you shouldn't write anything off with Black Mirror because it's going to have stuff to tell you later. It's going to spin it around, but you almost write down and go, "Oh, well, I mean, I'm a gamer, but like I don't have a lot of history about 1980s video games necessarily,
Yeah.
I'm not a...
It's something you go, okay, sure, whatever, I'll buy it.
Like, I play a lot of games, but can I give you trivia from 1987 stuff? Probably not. I mean, so I'll go with it, sure. But yeah, and I thought they did a good job of like the set dressing and the clothes for each era. Because see, when she's walking through the club and it's in the 90s, I'm like, this does look like the 90s.
And the music choices
change, yeah, because
absolutely spot on.
It goes to 2002, and it was
Britney Spears.
Was it? Yeah, I recognised it. Yeah,
I can't remember exactly. I feel like it was Britney.
Maybe
Spears.
Christina Aguilera.
Maybe
I want to say it may have been her.
It was definitely early 2000s. Female pop led stuff.
Yeah, some blonde singer. Yeah, and yeah, so all this, and she eventually does find her, and they have kind of an argument because like Kelly's like, I didn't want to like have feelings for everyone. This was just a bit of fun. Leave me alone.
I think there was that really weird line as well. I goes, "Oh, I didn't think this was your era."
Yeah, and she punches the mirror, and then she looks back up, and the mirror's fixed, and it's like, all right, okay.
And her hand was fine as well.
Yeah, her hand was fine. And then when she finds her up on the roof, she goes up. She's like, "I hope your pain sliders are set to 0." Right, okay, we're definitely dealing with some kind of Matrix-y thingamabob going on here. But at this point, I'm still not like. At this point, it's maybe halfway through the episode by the time we get here, because we spend a lot of time in the 80s actually. Like there's a good chunk of it in the 80s, and it's all
Yeah.
very good. It's all very again. This went back to the same aspect ratio that was in Playtest.
Yeah.
They have literally alternated between like 2.0 to 1 to like 2.2 to 1.
Mm.
Because the last one was the same as the first one. But anyway. See episode 2 for a discussion of aspect ratios.
Oh, and I did speculate that they would alternate between them.
Yeah. Well, now you even suggested there might be
A third one, yeah.
a third one. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, gorgeous. I actually think this might be the most, the prettiest out of all the episodes so far.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think that's very intentional because that makes you feel good when something looks good like that.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
that
get
works
it,
for this
yeah.
episode.
It does. And so they go up on the roof, and then they say something that really like scrambles your brain. They look down at the crowd, and Yorkie's like, "How many of them do you think are alive?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
You know, like what?
And then she says like 85% of them are probably dead.
Yeah, full timers. She refers them as,
Yeah.
and because I'm like, had she just said something about them all being dead, I'm like, I would have just assumed this was actually like heaven. This was actually the afterlife, but only 80% of them are dead. That's what makes it weird. Like, all right, so it's not the afterlife.
Because it's one of those things. The first time you hear them referred to as dead was by the first guy, and you just think, oh, it's just some slang, 80s
Yeah,
slang.
yeah.
You just brush it off. You don't think he's being so literal.
Yeah. That's always a genius in these twists, is you have someone blatantly say it, but it comes across as nothing.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, so and they end up together again, and I think there may be another week where they end up together again. I can't remember if there was like another one, or if they have the conversation that night. I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But it's not on the rooftop though, is it?
No, it's outside her. Well, I say her
Yeah.
house. It's their dream house, I guess.
Yeah,
And they have the conversation, and she like, and the one thing we've not mentioned is that Yorkie said she's getting married. She's engaged to a guy named Greg.
which was weird because obviously she says she's never had sex, she's never done anything,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, and she's like, but you've had relationships. And she's like, it's complicated.
Well, the funny thing is when it finally got revealed, I was expecting it to not actually be a marriage. I was expecting it to be a euphemism for something else because of all these factors. But it turned out it actually was a marriage. There was just a
Yeah.
reason for it. So even up till this point, like, okay, I'm guessing Matrixy type thing. Some of them are dead. We know that. I was even at least before the mirror thing. Even it was just the traveling through the hours. I was even thinking for a second, is it just like time travel, or are these people?
I considered that.
Yeah, is it just them hopping through time periods? And full timers are, the people who just lived, in that time period.
Yeah.
And that's why they might be dead, because they might be from like 2160.
Yeah, I considered that as well.
Yeah, or a little bit before that, if some of them are still alive. But so that was a possibility, and they end up like, and then they start talking about this place in particular. They start talking about the decision, and Kelly is like, no, I can't come here full time. I'm just visiting because my husband didn't want to come. He didn't believe in it. And okay, you're starting, and this is where you're kind of really piecing it together. You're starting to kind of put the pieces aligned here. And of course, I actually thought we were really close to the end of the episode at this point for some reason. I don't know why, but so we come into the real world.
Yeah, probably about what, 2/3 through.
Yeah, we come into the real world and we see old Kelly, what she actually looks like in present. Well, I say present day, maybe the near future, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but it's again that classic 5 minutes from now Black Mirror thing, where it's like, it's
Yeah.
pretty much now.
Although I would maybe argue that if the 80s was her era, I would maybe imagine that she was that like early 20 something in the 80s, so maybe it is a bit later.
Well, early 20-something should be what? That was about 40 years ago, right?
Yeah, but she's older than 60. She looks like 80.
Yeah, so it's a little bit in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aye, so Yeah.
But it was one of those things where when you see it, she goes, "Ah," because she was dying. She said, "Oh, she's dying. She's only got a couple of months."
Mm.
It's like, "Ah, okay, I get it."
Yeah, yeah, it all comes together, and like, cause and before we do switch to the real world, they actually start talking about coming to see each other in real life, and they reveal the locations, and they're not that far away. And at this point, I still wasn't sure what this was about, but I was seeing some correlations here with, like, meeting someone online
Yeah,
and, like, meeting them in real life for the first time. Like, the idea that you can actually in this day, like, because there was a time in the '90s when people started, like, being on the internet where it was this, like, oh, they're probably an axe murderer, don't do it. Whereas now tons of people meet online. It's just
that's how I met
normal.
my girlfriend.
Yeah. Hell, it's how we met.
Yeah,
God.
it's true.
Internet
I
was
don't like putting those two in the same category, though.
Internet was a mistake. Internet was a mistake.
Yeah, let's dial it back.
Let's go back to the abacus. You could you couldn't
That
get
seems a bit advanced still.
you couldn't meet a creepy ginger on an abacus.
I'll find a way. Gingers always find a way.
But so I was thinking, I was like drawing parallels with that, and the other thing I was drawing, because at this point it was becoming clear that this was some kind of manufactured afterlife where you could upload your conscious into a computer, or they call it the cloud when we hear about it later on. That's what they actually say. And I was sort of thinking how, do you know what that's kind of like? It's kind of like our generation is the first generation where there's going to be so much of us left behind on the internet when we die. Like, think about it. Even our friend Alex, who used to do shows with us, like, so much of, like, him is still on the internet. You can
Go and watch him.
go and watch him. There's like hundreds of hours of him on this channel. You can go and I mean, you can go on his Facebook. You can read like random thoughts he had. Go on his Twitter, seeing how excited he was for various things. Like, there's a part of him still kind of there in the digital space, and he died, young. Whereas, like, if we make it to a 78, he's like, how long will we have been keeping records of our life on the internet? How long, especially us, we're recording videos. Like, if we do this for decades, then, like...
Yeah. This is something Black Mirror's explored before with the the idea of using someone's online presence after they die.
Yeah.
We've seen this in there before, so this is
that-
kind of another take on that idea.
Yeah, that was Be Right Back. I must say, though, I do like this one much better.
I love this episode.
I love this episode, too. This
This is one of my favourites.
This is also one. Season 3 is knocking it out of the park. I am really...
And can I just say, this is probably the least Black Mirror-y episode of all of them, because for the first time ever, I came out of this uplifted.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But the other thing is, though, I would argue I was kind of uplifted with the first one as well, with Nosedive. I feel like the ending of that was kind of... It was at least a happier ending.
It was a happier ending, but like usually Black Mirror is, this is a warning, don't do this.
True, but like at the end of that episode, she actually like took the warning and like broke through and was the right. Whereas most of them end with like dire consequences.
Sure, there was a personal happy ending, but the world, at large. Whereas this feels like this wasn't a warning not to do this. This can be a good thing.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of us having a digital presence after we die is definitely the main inspiration for this. So I think that's a really fun idea to play with, but this takes it one step further and gives us a very realistic virtual reality, which, So Kelly goes and sees Yorkie, and she's, like, basically comatose. Like, she can hear what you say, but she's not responsive, she can't move, she can't speak. And we also find out from Greg, we meet Greg, and he's, like, her nurse. And he's only marrying her because she needs permission to, like, pass over into this digital realm. Like, they need to have like permission, but her parents are like super religious. And then the biggest hit comes, the biggest thing, and the thing that sort of explains why she is so, like, at the start of the episode, so kind of socially awkward and different and reacting and having never done lots of things before, is because when she was 21, after she came out as gay to her parents, they shunned her essentially, and she drove off and was in an accident and became a paraplegic. Was it quadriplegic? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So she couldn't walk. She couldn't do any of this. and it kind of makes sense that she's never done lots of things, and she never, and I know some people, like, in present day, you think 21, you would have done some of this by now, but given her age, she's from an olden era, I can buy that she got to 21 without,
Yeah,
doing
definitely.
various things, so, and it becomes like and this point I'm like, oh, this is really sad, but it's kind of sweet because they found each other, and it's actually this really nice idea that these two old people, and when we find out that they are old, and this is them sort of like living out, wild dreams or whatever in this world, it's kind of sweet from Kelly's point of view because she repressed her feelings for women throughout all of her marriage, and you kind of realize that it's not actually a bad thing. Like, he didn't leave her in that sense; they were just happily married for 40
Yeah,
plus years.
they had a kid. They
Yeah,
had a very happy long life together.
yeah. But this was a part of herself that she never got to explore because of
Yeah.
that. So, no, all very interesting ideas. And then Kelly, of course, goes into the world and proposes that she marry her instead because they actually care for each other. And
It's a lovely moment.
it is. And, we have the whole scene where, we see her, like, they take the life support off, but she's, like, transferred into the cloud. And it, but she goes to see her because the whole idea of, so she lives in there now, so she waits a week and Kelly can go in and see her for 5 hours. So that's the time limit they have, and it starts off very sweet and they're very happy, and
They're both in wedding dresses.
yeah, and you kind of think to yourself, oh, I hope she decides to stay.
Yeah.
And then Yorkie brings it up, and they start fighting. And this is when it gets really hard hitting, and it begs a lot of interesting questions because Kelly says that you never asked, like, why, because she accuses of her husband of being selfish for deciding not to do this because he didn't believe in it. But then we find out the big thing that they did have a daughter, and the daughter died young. She died at 39 without any notice. It was a complete,
Mm.
accident or whatever. And because of that, she didn't have time to be transferred to somewhere. She just doesn't exist anymore. So you understand why the husband's like, I don't want to spend forever in a fake world without my daughter. Like,
Yeah.
you completely understand it. Which almost makes you think that a lot of the people in this world are the oddballs and loners, and
See, I'm not sure because, like you say, there is that, but then she specifically says you can leave anytime you want.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. They
So
do bring
it's
that
like
up.
you can come, you can have your last meetings with family, and then you can leave when you're ready. So it's I don't know. It's not actually forever, is it? It's only forever if you want it to be.
Yeah. But they have a fight, and Kelly, storms off and actually puts herself in a car crash.
Yeah, it's a very literal thing there.
Yeah, puts herself in a car crash, and the time runs out, and she disappears just as Yorkie's about to pick her up, and it's kind of really bittersweet. Like, oh,
It's kind of a heart wrenching moment. It's like, oh, they're finally there, and then just gone.
and we see a montage of Kelly, like, sort of slowly dying and getting sicker, and she's on, like, more sort of tubing and life support and whatever else as time's getting on, and she says something really sort of ambiguous to her nurse, which is, I'm just kind of ready for the rest of it now. And you could take that as meaning either. You could take that as meaning I'm ready to die and just be done, and I'm ready to,
Right up until the very final scene, I wasn't sure which way they were playing it.
yeah. But deep down, I was like, please be happy.
I
Please,
was too.
please be a happy ending. Please. It's such a sweet story. They found, like, this woman who can never walk and never could have any of this because she was in a bed her entire life, finally got to have this. And, and it doesn't have to be forever. Like, Kelly can eventually, after like a year or something, say, all right, it's time for me to move on. Because if there is something else, maybe I can go and be with my husband.
Yeah.
And we could get into all sorts of philosophical debates. If there is something else, did her real soul actually go there already? And, like, this is just like a digital representation of her. Like, we could talk about that, but I don't think it's worth it.
No.
Let's just take that at face value.
It did cross my mind, I'll be honest, as I was watching it.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, that's way too deep.
Yeah, but it's clearly not the point of the episode.
It's not.
So, yeah, so and it plays off all thingy, and then so it goes to credits, and it seems like it might be a sad ending. And then is the song called "Heaven's a Place on Earth"? Is that the name of the song?
I think it is.
If it's not that, you know what song I'm talking about. Heaven's a Place on Earth, right? That starts playing, and a big grin just went across my face. And this was doing the thing that a couple of the early Black Mirrors did in the last series, where it gave you some like sort of scenes in between the credits, just to sort of
which we hadn't have this season. Which
Yeah.
I didn't realize we didn't have until this one. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is a thing that this show does.
It didn't always do it, but it did it for a few of them.
Probably about half.
Yeah, it went away from it during season 2 a little bit, but
Yeah.
season 1 had them for the most part. And so it's playing this song. It's very 80s, and Yorkie's driving in a ridiculously looking, convertible that's clearly from the 80s, and driving by the beach and the seaside and all that. And we see, other various things, but then we see Kelly step out and smile, and she gets in the car, and we see that they're together, and it you could almost say it's almost too happy and it's too sweet. But you know what? After the last episode, I needed something this sweet to remind me of life and how good it could be again.
No, and like I said, it's uplifting because they could have played this as no, this is a bad thing. Like she has this thing of why do I get this? Why would I want this? Where she's angry, we have that perspective, but it's a choice at all times. I think with them establishing that pretty clearly that you can leave whenever you're done, makes it, or it plays it as a good thing. It's like look at what we can have now that we couldn't have had without this with these two people.
Yeah, exactly. Like these two people, like, and that goes for every relationship where anyone met on the internet. Like, without the internet, couples wouldn't have met, marriages wouldn't have happened, kids wouldn't have been born. Well, maybe the number of kids that have been born from the internet are probably quite small right now because
give it 10 years.
But you know what? In 20 years' time, how many adults will be born and be doing things and maybe curing diseases because their parents met on the internet? So this was actually quite a positive, uplifting episode.
That's why it's so shocking. It's like, yeah, there is a technological message, but it's a good one.
Do you know what I like about it as well? I like the Black Mirror in season 3 because we could argue the first one was a little bit less Black Mirror feeling, whereas 2 and 3 felt a lot more Black Mirror-esque.
Yeah.
I think I like that it's expanding, that it's not just sticking to the one. It's keeping within the realm, but it's
yeah.
This
felt like Black Mirror played with the formula and stuff, but at the same time, it was positive. It was such an uplifting, happy thing overall. The whole episode, like even when these people were like dying, it wasn't played as a sad thing. It was played as no, we've got more to go to.
Yeah. Oh, just to add a sad note onto it though, it's kind of like, talking about their daughter and her dying suddenly. Like, how many people die early without notice that don't get this chance to upload? It's kind of
no, that is true.
That would be kind of depressing. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I've also got a couple of quick glimpses. Will Heaven's a Place on Earth is playing, of like this robot putting all the, I guess,
it literally cuts to the server farm.
Yeah, the server farm of them all being there. But at the same time, it's oddly happy. It almost feels like Wall-E going around, and
it does. And this place literally is heaven on earth, essentially.
Yeah, the song's really on the nose, but I can't deny I was kind of bobbing my head, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm in a good mood now." That's a great.
It was, like I say, it's so on the nose, and it should feel cheesy, but it just works so well that you feel like if they hadn't used it, they might have missed a trick.
Yeah. So no, that was another great episode. I'm not ready to say what my favourite so far is. I want to wait until I've watched all 6, and then we'll talk about.
What I will say is, at this point, I feel like this might be the most consistent season yet.
Arguably, even if the last 2 stink, it still kind of is because it's already longer than the previous 2 seasons.
Well, yeah, it's true.
So yeah. So that's episode 4. And you'll notice I stopped saying the title of the place because I forgot what it was because it was
San Junipero.
San Junipero, thank you. I forgot how to say it halfway through. Like I said, guys, I'm tired. San Junipero. So thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. I know this one has split people a little bit more than the last one did. Some people love it, some people didn't think it was that great. Give us for and against, by all means. It's interesting to hear stuff. So like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Thank you very much. And special good bit of news. We said we were doing 1 per day. However, you're getting a treat because we're going to actually have episode 5 late tonight. you're going to have.
The stars have aligned for an
Yeah.
extra dosage of us.
So Monday we'll have 2 reviews going up of Black Mirror, and then the finale. I say finale. It's not really a finale. It's an anthology. It's not the last episode. Will be up sometime on Tuesday night. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We will see you next time.